And joining me now, Jason Furman, Harvard Kennedy School professor and former chair of the Council of Economic Advisors. So you know this, Jason, President Trump wants to reshape global trade, arguing that the U.S. is being ripped off by friends and foes alike. The White House press secretary, Karoline Leavitt, said she heard directly from President Trump on that very thing today. So let me play what she just said.
China needs to make a deal with us. We don't have to make a deal with them. There's no difference between China and any other country except they are much larger. And China wants what we have, what every country wants, what we have, the American consumer. Or to put it another way, they need our money. So the president, again, has made it quite clear that he's open to a deal with China, but China needs to make a deal with the United States of America.
China is just like any other country. It's just bigger. Is it that simple?
It's not that simple. First of all, trade is positive sum. The American consumer needs China. China needs the American consumer. Both sides benefit when you have trade peace. Both sides lose when you have the type of trade war that we're in now.
Well, the Wall Street Journal has an interesting story today that consumers in China are increasingly turning to domestic brands for everything from phones to fast foods, things that they would have bought that were from the U.S. companies, all, of course, because of this trade war. You know, we do tend to talk about China in terms of the things that they export. But to your point, this is also a major market for U.S. goods. And just today, China halted all deliveries of Boeing jets from the U.S. That's according to Bloomberg News, citing people who are familiar with the matter. What could it mean for the American economy if China and, frankly, just everyday Chinese citizens decide to stop buying our stuff?
Yeah, and China's wanted to do this for a while now. And you've seen it in certain places like the digital platforms. At first, they used things like Google. Then they copied them. Then they leapfrogged and made things that were much better than what we had here in the United States. They've wanted to rebalance their economy away from dependence on the rest of the world and towards higher levels of consumption of things that were made domestically. And so the United States is giving them a push in the direction they were already going. That's why I think they are going to be hurt in the trade war. I think they're going to be hurt less than the United States because they can do more to protect themselves than we can.
China also has suspended the export of certain minerals that are critical to things that we rely on every single day, our phones, our computers, our cars, et cetera. These metals are refined entirely in China. So it's not like we can just say, oh, we're going to start producing them or we're going to get them somewhere else. What are the global implications here?
Yeah, I mean, that's an important part of these tariffs. These tariffs are not just on consumer goods. They're on things that American manufacturing companies use. It is hard to hire people to build a car here in the United States when some of the critical minerals that you need for maybe the magnets to control the steering wheel or something else in that car can't come into the United States anymore. So some of this is actually going to hurt American manufacturing. Over time, the United States ourselves needs to get more resilient. We need to get less dependent on China, but that is not something that we are at all able to do overnight. It takes careful planning and real investment in the United States, not just wildly erratic tariffs against China.
As long as we're talking about the Trump administration remaking things, let me ask you about their plans to potentially remake higher education. Harvard, an institution obviously you know well. The White House has frozen more than $2 billion in grants after Harvard rejected a list of demands that include restricting the admission of international students who, according to the administration, are hostile to American values and institutions. They want all DEI programs shut down, et cetera. They stated a goal of combating anti-Semitism. What do you make of both what the administration is doing and Harvard's response now?
You know, I just had lunch with a couple of our students, and the majority of them happen to be international. And they are so smart, so motivated. You know, they're going to either contribute to our country or form ties to our country, go back to their own. What a just crazy thing to do with a great American export. The reaction of, the students I've talked to, the faculty I've talked to, the alumni I've talked to, the one word that comes up over and over again is proud. People are proud that Harvard is taking this stand. They understand that it's not going to be easy, but they don't think there was any choice.
Can I just ask you, because I know this is something that you understand in the context of the overall economy that we're talking about. Are we looking at a brain drain, particularly from some of these students who are indeed the best and the brightest, who are coming to places like Harvard from all over the world?
Yeah, I asked them if this was a year ago and they were deciding between, say, Harvard or studying in another country, maybe Oxford in the UK, would they factor this in? And they all said yes. And, we as a country, look at our Fortune 500 companies. So many of them started by immigrants or children of immigrants. Look at the diseases that we figure out cures for, immigrants over and over and over again. Absolutely, this is going to do long-term damage to our country. And some of these things, if they don't get invented here in the United States, they're not going to get invented anywhere else either. So we're just going to miss out on, life-saving cures.
Jason Furman, sobering thoughts. Thank you for coming on the show.